Hi, welcome to another Unity tutorial. In this tutorial, I'm going to build on the fish flocking algorithm that I created a little while ago with some requests that I've had over the past few months in updating that code. Here, I'm adding in a bounding box, and you can see that bounding box in the scene view. If I move that bounding box, the fish actually go with it, and they stay within the confines, well, within limits. If they're turning around on the edge, they tend to go out a bit, and if they are turning too quickly, they tend to come out, but they stay pretty much inside of that box. And the other thing I've added is a speed controller slider that I've got at the top here. And if I just change the speed of the fish, you can see that they will go much, much faster. And you can end up getting them swarming quite quickly around. So how have I done this? Let's go and have a look at the code. And all of this was done in the code except adding this slider in here. So first of all, let's go to the global flock script, and it's changed a little bit from last time. I'll just point out where the differences are. First of all, I've got a function that I've added at the top. It's public and it's called fish speed. And what this does is it captures the slider value and sends it to all of the fish. So the fish, when they're created, they all go into an array of fish. If we just go back and press play and click on the fish manager, you'll see there's an all fish showing you all of the fish here. Now, all of these fish have the flock script on them, which is this one. And the flock script has a public float speed mult set, and this will be our speed multiplier that will be used to multiply the speed of the fish. These two scripts are the only two scripts in the whole system, and to understand how to set them up properly, you'll need to go back to the first flocking tutorial and follow that through, and then you can make these changes to the code. So basically we have this here, which is our first function that's being added, which will be controlled by the slider. And then next we have this draw gizmo function, and that's drawing that box on the screen in red when the fish manager is selected. You'll also notice that I've done away with the tank range values. So there used to be a tank range value at the top. It's now called swim limits. This will set how far that box is and how far the fish can go from the center of that box. Now, those values for swim limits are used down in the start function, which is also modified. Before we had fish spawning at random locations, but now we're going to spawn them inside the box and keep the goal position that is being created for the fish inside the box. So they will never go outside of that box. The goal position will always be somewhere inside of there. So the changes are that we've got this my flock value equal to this, and a goal position equal to this dot transform position. So it sets the goal position initially right in the center of that red box. Okay, then we go through and loop through all of the fish and set their positions randomly, but within the swim limit ranges. So they will spawn inside that box. In the update function, the goal position is being set at some random time range up here, and it's being set again to inside of those swim limits, so it will stay inside of that box and bounce back and forth inside the box. So the fish will end up moving around inside and flocking inside. So that's the global flock script. Let's go back and look at the flock script itself. Okay, this is it here. Now, again, the change is this speed mult float value. And then I've also down here in the update, the first thing I do is to get the bounding box of the manager. And you can do this by using a bounds data structure, which will essentially get you a cube or a rectangular prism that is defined by some particular size. And in this case, our bounding box will be the manager's position with the swim limits times 2 around it. It's kind of like a collider, creating another sort of collider box around something. But we can test if a transform is inside that bounds box, which is a really nice feature of Unity. And you can see I've done that in the next if statement. I've got an if b, which is the bounds, dot contains the transform dot position, which is the fish's position. If it doesn't contain it, then it tells the fish to turn around. Otherwise, the fish just keeps swimming the way it was before. And then after that is the code that we had before, which makes the fish swim. And you've got your turning and then your else for applying the flocking rules. What's slightly different in this little bit here is that wherever I've got a speed, I'm multiplying it by speed mult up here for the turning speed. And then down here in the translate where I'm moving the fish forward, I'm multiplying that by speed mult again, which will speed up the fish. Further down, inside of the apply rules, which is our flocking algorithm, it's got the speed mult added right down the bottom and here, using speed mult to multiply up the group's speed or the average group speed that's being calculated down here, and that will make that speed up as well. As for this slider, I'll show you how to quickly create one. So we turn it off, go over to slider and the canvas. I'm just going to delete that whole thing so I create it from scratch, and also the event system. Once you start adding and deleting UI items, you may get more than one event system, and it's very important that you make sure you've only got one event system in the scene. So right click and we'll go down to UI and add in our slider, sorry, not the canvas, and that will create a canvas, it'll create an event system, and it also creates our slider. It creates this slider down this bottom corner, and I want it up the top. So with the slider selected, if I click on this rectangle, and then I can click in this top corner like that, and if I want to position it at the same time, I can hold the Alt key down and click again, and that will position it up in the top corner. Now, if we go to 2D mode over in the scene and double click on the slider to find it, from there I can just sort of move it down away from that corner, just a little bit like that. Now the slider itself, if we have a look down through the inspector, you'll find that there's a value, and it's this value here that you set the slider to that will get passed through to the fish in a moment. And I want to make this a value between 0 and 10, and I will also make it whole numbers as well, so that as we slide, we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I guess it's up to you what this range is and how fast you want things to happen. Now we can add in this box that says on value changed a function to get called when the slider's value changes. That function is going to be the one that we created before inside the global flock. So to add that, click the plus button. We'll grab hold of the fish manager because it's got that global flock script on it, and drop it into that object box. Next, you look through your function, go down to global flock, and you're looking for that fish speed function. Now let me just grab this, bring it in so you can see it a bit better. Global flock fish speed. So select that, and now global flock fish speed will get the value of the slider when the slider changes. Now one thing to notice here is when I just click this down and go to global flock, you'll see that fish speed is in a list of dynamic floats. And that's what you want, because you want to pass through a floating value, which means when you define the function itself, if we go back to the global flock script and open it up, you'll see that fish speed function has a float, and it must have a float in order for this to work. And I've still got a debug line hanging over there that I was using while I was testing. So now that that is hooked up with that slider, the values will come through here, and then they'll loop through all the fish and send that new speed molt value across into the fish. Now, if you want to do this with other sliders, then it's the same thing. You would just make pretty much a carbon copy of this function, change its name, change whatever the float is that's coming in, and then just send it off to the flock script. Make sure that the value you're trying to access in the flock script is public. So speed molt, if we just go back to flock for a moment, at the top you'll find that it's public. If it's not public, it won't let you send a value across to it. Okay, so with all that done and the slider set up, we can hit play and we can control the speed of the fish within the box. And that's pretty much it. So thanks for watching. Again, if you want the scripts themselves, the code, they're on my website. And if you'd like the project files are available to all my Patreon subscribers on an Access All Areas subscription. Thank you, and I'll talk to you again soon.